Can we start?
Recording has started.
Okay. So I am going to call this organizational meeting of the Timberlane Regional Budget Committee to order on May 14th at 7:10 p.m. And this is done electronically through Zoom. So Jeff, can you call the roll?
I would love it if you would not mind reciting the chairman's statement that you might have in front of you prior to my.
All right, so let me do this one first. So I have a written letter from the governor, and it says a checklist. Let me get my glasses. A checklist to ensure meetings are compliant with the right to know law during the state of emergency. As chair of the Timberlane Regional School District Budget Committee Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with the Governance Emergency Order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically, period. There is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are, A, providing public access to the meeting by audio and video utilizing a Zoom webinar platform where all members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting, and the public has access contemporaneously, listen, and view by logging into www.timberlane.net/ZoomBudCom. Section B, we have given notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. This information has been provided along with the agenda and posted to the board's website at www.timberlane.net. C, oh, hello, Christy. C, we have provided a phone number for the public to alert this public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. That phone number is 603-382-6541, extension 3955. D, which is the last section, we will adjourn the meeting and reschedule if the public is unable to access the meeting. And then it says, additionally, all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We'll begin the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When members state their presence, they must also state whether there is anyone in the room with them during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. And that concludes the governor's message. Anybody have any questions? All right, so before we go too far, Chrissy, can you hear us?
He's on mute. You're on mute.
All right, welcome. So now, Jeff, can we call the roll, please?
We can call a roll, and I have the unenviable pleasure of calling on our newest board member, Christy O'Clair, first, because I'm not sure that I pronounced your last name correctly, and I think you're on mute as well.
Yeah.
Oh, are you calling in?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, are you present, Christy? You are. I can see you saying yes, but I can't hear you. I'm going to go back to you. Want to keep working on it? I'm going to go back.
Off mute.
Yeah.
So I'm on my laptop, and for some reason my volume, I can't turn it up, so I'm trying to get on my regular computer, so I'm going to switch off.
I can hear you just fine, and I can see that you're on there twice. Have I pronounced your last name correctly? O'Clair?
O'Clair.
Perfect. And if you'd be so kind, is there anyone else in the room with you?
No.
Perfect. Peter Belo.
I am here and I'm alone. My wife would not want to sit through any of these meetings.
Brian Boyle.
Here, I'm alone in the room. There are other family members present in the house.
Alan David.
Here, and I am alone in the room, and there are other family members in the house. Well, one other family member.
Kathy Gorman,
I'm here and I am alone, but there are other family members in the house.
Julie Hammond,
I'm here, but there are other family members in the house.
Michael Mascola,
I am here, and there is nobody in the house except myself.
Todd McCormick,
I am here and there are other family members in the house, but I'm alone in this room.
Susan Sherman,
Yes, I'm here. My other family member has wandered in and out. I will ask him to leave. Please leave.
I think he could be there. The public just needs to know he's there.
I don't know,
He's left. He has left the room.
so maybe taking advantage of that role, I'm not sure, but
Okay.
Phil Sherwood? No,
Phil is not here. He just texted me. He will try to join later, but he said doubtful. So I'll just wish Todd well. Not Todd.
I'm well. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
Phil.
He looks good.
Thank you. All right. So next is Pledge of Allegiance. So can we get that flag? I feel
Boom.
All right.
It is, baby.
All right.
Up.
Oh, geez.
Really?
Yep.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag. United States of America.
America.
And
To the republic
Public.
For which it
stands,
stands,
stands
nation,
one nation,
Under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for
justice
all.
for all.
Overall.
Glad there's no time delay.
We,
All right.
we
So
will get better at that.
number 4, review discussion of
Get back
RSA.
in here.
Pardon me?
There we go.
Everybody hear me? So number 4, review discussion of RSA chapters 32, 33, 195, and budget committee bylaws. 5 minutes. These are the same ones we see every year. Christy, do you have a copy of all
I
this?
do.
Good.
Do. Yep, they were emailed to me pretty shortly after I was sworn in.
So you know that as the newest member, you now have to recite them by heart.
By heart. Good thing I studied them last night.
There'll be a test after this meeting.
Perfect.
So does anybody have any questions on these? Kathy's putting her glasses on. And you're muted. I can't hear you, Kathy.
No, things are just a little blurry, so
Okay.
glasses aren't helping though.
So if there's nothing huge with those, which we can always talk about later, we're going to get to the beef of what this meeting is really all about, which is number 5, the election of officers. And so, Jeff, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Perfect. So thank you, Michael. The first chair the first seat that we'll be electing is the chair. Once that chair is elected, I will turn that the remainder of the nominations and elections over to the chair to conduct the rest of that portion and actually the rest of the meeting. Recall that this is an election and I'll accept nominations. I don't need a second on those nominations. If a nomination is made and hopefully the said nominee will be in attendance, I will simply ask if they would accept that nomination, and then we can move on to see if there are further nominations. If there are multiple nominations for a chair, I will call one for a yay or nay, and then I will call the second for a yay or nay, and the third for a yay or nay. Obviously, only one favorable vote per candidate. So I will put out a call. Are there any nominations for the chair?
I wish to nominate Todd McCormick.
We have a nomination for Todd McCormick. Todd, do you accept said nomination?
I do.
Are there any other nominations?
Make voting easy.
I know. Any other nominations? No? So a couple things about tonight's meeting, just so you know, all of the votes, because we are operating remotely here, will be taken by roll call, which does put the process out a little bit more. Even though we appear to only have one nomination, I will still call a roll. So I will proceed to do that forthwith. Christy, yay or nay?
Yay.
Peter?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Well, you have been unanimously elected chair of the Timberlane Regional
Congratulations.
Budget Committee.
Hey, thank you.
Before handing the meeting over to you, Todd, I did want to express my gratitude and appreciation for the work that Michael has done as chair over the past budget seasons. He's been a great asset, I think, to the board, and it's been just an absolute pleasure to work with him. But congratulations, Todd. Meeting is all yours.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to echo that. Michael, you were fantastic for the last 2 years, my first 2 years on the budget committee. And I learned a lot from you, and I'm glad you're going to be here for another 3 years because I know I can always lean on you. So thanks a lot. Okay, so next we'll move on to vice chair. Anyone have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Phil. And
He
I'll
has
say
to be
period.
on, right?
Yeah, I think he needs to accept.
So I'll just tell you, I just texted him, sorry for the delay, saying interest, but he has not gotten back to me. Does he have to be on to go forward with a nomination?
I think the answer would be helpful to know if there are any other nominees for vice chair.
I'll nominate Julie.
I really graciously appreciate that nomination, but I do have to respectfully decline that. But thank you.
I'm going to throw out another suggestion. So here's two options. We can, I'm just reading Todd's, no, nothing. So we can do two things. Could we not go forward with the vice chair at this time? And number two, can we go in with a vice chair and then vote later on down the road if the board decided to change that vice chair?
I don't agree with changing the vice chair.
Yeah, neither do I. I think maybe we could make a motion to postpone it. I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. The meeting can certainly continue with Todd as chair. So I make a motion that we postpone it to, September? Well, September. We're not meeting again until September, so that would be fine, correct?
I don't think you even need a motion. I just think you need to, we just agree that we're, wait, I don't think you need a motion to you're tabling the vice chair.
Right. Unless like Jeff said, if there's anyone else interested. And if not, then I think we're fine tabling it to the next meeting. Could be even tonight, if Phil's able to make it. If he's not, then we could just do it whenever we meet again. September.
He just texted me. He is interested, so let's wait till September.
Okay.
He is. Hold on a second. If he texted Sue, if she held up her cell phone to show all of us that text message, is that sufficient indication that he's interested?
It works for me.
Good with
It works
that.
for me.
Can you
It works
say
for
it?
me.
Does it say yes, definitely? Is that what he typed? Yes.
Most definitely, yeah.
Most def. he wrote.
Most def.
Well, that'll be handy when you nominate him as recording secretary as well.
I'll hold it up and say,
All right, then I think we're back to Michael's nomination of Phil then. Or you didn't officially do it, Michael, so.
I did. I would like to nominate Phil Sherwood as vice chair.
What an age of the electric communications we're in now, people.
Yep. Crazy.
All right, Jeff, will you call the roll?
I'll be happy to call the roll. Christy,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Susan.
yes.
Well, Congratulations, Phil. You've been elected to apparently your first appointment of the night unanimously. Who knows what's next?
That's right. All right, so next it says others. I mean, I think normally here we would possibly appoint some folks to committees. I think that's premature at this point. Unless you tell me differently, Jeff, I think we'd move on to the next section on the agenda.
CIP.
Yeah, we could do that.
Always on the move.
Yeah, people just came in the house.
When does
All
the
right.
CIP meet next, Sue?
I think Brian would know that. He's
Brian.
there.
Well, we're hoping to. I'm kind of waiting for the buildings to open up, so that's what I'm waiting for.
Okay.
All right. Well, why don't we poll for interest? Is anyone interested in being on the CIP? The budget committee member to the CIP? Sue?
I'm certainly interested.
All right. I'll nominate Sue for the CIP committee. Do we do a roll for that as well?
If you'd like, yeah. Provided there's no one else, which it doesn't look like there is. So, Christy,
Yes.
Peter,
Sure.
Brian,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Kathy. Kathy, you might be on mute.
She's muted.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Julie,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Congratulations, Susan. You've been unanimously elected as CIP, I guess, liaison.
Okay.
Excuse me, one moment. I'm just letting Julie know that it looks like you're wearing a lampshade, Julie.
It
Yeah.
does. It looks like you have a hat on.
I
See,
couldn't
that's
let
why
it-
a picture's easier. I'm telling you, just put a picture up.
Oh my God, all right, I gotta turn.
All right. So just going back to the last couple of years, I think other than CIP, unless we had any other special committees, I'm not sure we really had any folks on any other committees. So we could certainly, as that comes up in the next meetings, we could readdress that. But let's move on to the next section of appointments. Where do we stand on recording secretary, Jeff?
We do not have any recording secretary at the moment. So thankfully I have all summer to work on that.
Okay, so I nominate Jeff as the recording secretary for right now.
Oh, I don't know if I can be the recording secretary.
No, I'm kidding.
Just while we have a couple members of the public at least watching us, I can see, could Jeff perhaps tell us like what's the pay scale for recording secretary? In case I know of anybody?
Yes, we just changed that, and I don't want to speak out of school here. So let me get that out if I can, because we did just change the entire structure of the way that it was paid, and then it parallels the school board recording secretary stipend as well. So I don't have that at the moment, but I can certainly get it and send it out to the community. And if we have anyone who may be interested, and if there's anyone interested who's listening on this call, I would certainly welcome any interest to my email.
Okay. So moving on, I don't think there's any others as far as appointments, unless I'm missing something. Jeff or Michael, anything you can think of there? So we'll move on to number 7 on the agenda, review and adopt bylaws. Jeff, is that something we're sharing out on the screen, or?
I can try. Dean, if you can allow me to share those bylaws or share the screen.
Is your intent to go through all the bylaws?
The only thing that I think would be really relevant that I don't see relevant, somebody may have an idea of some aspect they'd like to change, but I think the thing that we look at with greatest scrutiny, ironically, the agenda is actually set out in the bylaws. So I will I'm sharing on my screen. I assume you can all see it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So we have our part two, our regular committee meetings. We obviously have the schedule set out and the order of the business at the regular meetings. And this is the agenda. So I know that of all the changes that we've probably had over the years, I think most of them have been in that area, unless anyone has another specific area they've looked at. If you'd like to table that and take a look at the next meeting, we certainly can have a review. But overall, ironically, I think the thing that we have changed the most is the order of the agenda. I don't know if there's anything that anyone sees that they'd like to change around, but beyond that, everything should probably be okay the way it is.
I am okay with the way things are.
Yep. Me as well.
Yeah, I'm certainly okay, especially since it says the order may be as follows. So that gives us actually the ability to change it at will.
Yep.
I'm not suggesting we do, but.
I think the chair always has a prerogative as the meeting goes on, say, I'm going to push agenda item 2 down and bring agenda item 9 up as long as we agree.
Exactly. Especially in these times that we're in now.
Right.
We're going to have to be all kinds of flexible, and it looks like we can do that. So
When
I'm fine.
When were these reviewed last, or actually rewritten, or?
Well, they're reviewed every year, but changed?
Yeah, stop at committees. Stop right there. It says,
Oh, right there. Okay. Yeah.
stop at committees. I don't think you needed to elect me to be the chair appoints the person. I let you go ahead and vote, but I don't think you needed to vote me in. It's the chair's prerogative who sits on the CIP.
Well, it's more congenial this way.
Now you're doubly secured as the CIP liaison
Well,
for the
I
budget
don't want
committee.
anyone to say we did it wrong.
So if there was a procedural error perhaps tonight that I knew about, that was it. And the reason that I was okay with it was because it is nice to have the rest of the board members chime in. It's not like school board where you have so many committees and so much work to do that they have to be assigned. It's nice that the committee is able to come together and arrive at a consensus.
Yep.
And actually,
And that's
just because we took a vote doesn't mean Todd still can't appoint you.
You're appointed, Sue. And that last year with the withdrawal committee, Michael, you kind of did that, right? I mean, you reached out to, hash it out, flesh it out, but you did that. I think we may have voted, but you basically appointed John for that.
So these were amended when? The last time, go down to the bottom?
Just showing
16.
and they may have been amended.
No, we amended
since then.
Yeah.
No, we amended
Let's
them.
see here.
We amended them, I thought, last year. If not last year, the year before. We did not significant, but we made changes to how often we're able to meet, things like that. So,
Kathy's right. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, let's take a look here and see if I can find what the most current. And check the date at the bottom. Kathy Belcher, of course, is the one who keeps and maintains those. I think you would have looked at the time people could speak from the public. Public comment, I believe, is one area that you addressed at some point recently.
I'm sure we could go back to the organizational meeting minutes from last year and the year before and figure it out.
Yeah. I do have the document out here. Let's see where it is here. Sorry.
Is this something we want to determine right now, or?
I just thought it was interesting to see when they had been last looked at. It doesn't mean you made any changes, but looking at them is a good idea every couple of years.
Kathy's right, though. We did in
changed them.
2018.
Yep.
Just like more procedural,
Yes.
the process of how we run the meetings and, what we like to see in what order as far as building the budget in the fall.
I think maybe we should, I would like to make a suggestion that we table this and make sure we have the right version here, because there may be a more current version with the appropriate amended date on it.
Good point.
Agreed.
We do have something, and it should be on the Budget Committee's SharePoint site as well, and I don't see it out there. So.
Okay.
So let's table this.
Yeah, so for this meeting, let's table this and under a parking lot, Jeff, and we're not going to address it in the very next meeting that follows this. So we'll table
Perfect.
it for the first fall meeting. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up the organizational meeting. Can someone please make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to close the org meeting at 7:34.
I second.
Okay. All right. So the org meeting is officially closed at 7:34.
By general consent?
Yes.
Indeed.
A
I
gavel.
have my. That's all I have.
We're going to watch you to make sure you stay under like that 45-minute limit now.
I'll do my best. All right, so I do need to start this meeting off just like the last one, reading this same list. So what do we do first? Read the list, Jeff, or call the meeting to order?
I would call the meeting to order, and as soon as you do, you can then proceed with the reading of the list.
Okay. It is 7:35 on May the 14th. I'd like to call to order the first budget committee meeting, Timberlane School District Budget Committee meeting. And welcome everyone for the first of many meetings this budget season. This letter is entitled "A Checklist to Ensure Meetings Are Compliant with the Right to Know Law During the State of Emergency." As chair of the Timberlane Regional School District Budget Committee, hold on, let me pull this up on my screen here. It's much easier.
I printed it.
As chair of the Timberlane Regional School District Budget Committee Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. There is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by audio and video utilizing a Zoom webinar platform where all members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and view by logging on to www.timberlane.net/Zoom-budcom. B, we have given notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. This information has been provided along with the agenda and posted to the board's website at www.timberlane.net. C, we have provided a phone number for the public to alert this public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. That phone number is 603-382-6541, extension 3955. D, we will adjourn the meeting and, in parentheses, and reschedule, and parentheses, if the public is unable to access the meeting. Additionally, all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We will begin the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When members state their presence, they must also state whether there is anyone in the room with them during this meeting, which is required under the Right to Know law. So with that is a long letter, isn't it? Let's go ahead and do a roll call, please, Jeff.
All right. Christy or Claire?
I'm here.
Excellent. Peter?
I'm here and by myself.
Actually, Christy, I'm going to go back to you, and I'm going to ask the same thing as earlier. I believe that you should state whether you're alone in the room.
Yes, I am alone.
So you're present and alone in the room. And Peter, we've got you. Brian?
Yeah.
I am here. I'm alone in the room. There are other family members in the home.
Alan David?
I am here, and there's another family member in the room, at home.
Kathy Gorman?
I am here alone in the room, but there are other people in the house.
Julie Hammond?
Here, but there are other family members in the house.
Michael Mascola?
I am here and there's nobody in the house.
Todd McCormick?
I am here alone in the room, but there are other people in my house.
Susan Sherman?
I'm here, I'm alone in the room, but there are other members in the house.
And Phil Sherwood? Not present.
So I apologize. I didn't realize I had to disclose other members as if they weren't in the room. I do have another member in the house, but not in the room.
Hold on.
Good. Good to know. All right, let's move on to the next thing on the agenda, approval of minutes. These are the minutes for the meeting just after deliberative session. Traditionally, Christy, I'm pretty sure Sue probably already knows this, but traditionally, if you weren't there in the meeting, you can feel free to abstain. I'm not sure you have to, but most people do. And we have plenty of people on the call here to form a quorum, so you don't need to feel that you have to vote on that.
Okay.
So if you want to, I know Jeff sent them out, but if you want to just take a look at the minutes and review them, and then we'll vote on that. Okay. Anyone have any changes that they'd like to make, or?
I'm having just a hard time going back that far,
I know.
but I don't have any changes at this point.
All right. Someone want to make a motion to accept?
Motion to accept as written.
We have a second.
And I will second Peter's motion to accept the February 6th meeting minutes as Jeff has written.
All right. And all in favor? I guess, do we say that with a roll call vote, Jeff?
I will
or
have to,
just-
I will have to do a roll call.
All right, let's do a roll call on that.
All right. Christy O'Clair,
Yes.
Peter Billo,
Yes.
Brian Boyle,
Same.
Alan David,
Yes.
Kathy Gorman,
Abstain.
Julie Hammond,
Yes.
Michael Mascola,
Yes.
Todd McCormick,
Yes.
and Susan Sherman.
Abstain.
So the motion has passed with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor, 3 abstentions. Very good.
Moving on, correspondence. Jeff, do we have any correspondence?
You don't have any correspondence present.
Say that again?
You don't have any correspondence to send out as of now.
Okay, that was quick. Delegates and individuals. We discussed this, Michael, myself, and Jeff. We're going to handle that in this new way of doing things by way of the correspondence folder, correct, Jeff?
So we would, and because we don't have the opportunity for delegates and individuals to be present in the meeting room in the same way that we would if we were meeting in person, should these meetings continue in this similar manner into August or September and on, I would encourage the public to send your comments or questions or concerns in to either my email or the chairman's email, which are available on the website. My email is jeffrey.geoffrey.dowd@SAU55 with a request that they be included in the correspondence folder. Or you can certainly reach out to one of your town budget committee representatives to express your concerns or anything that you would normally have brought before the board and have them bring that in front of the board as an issue. Obviously, Todd and the rest of the board, the public input that we receive as part of that delegates and individuals section of the meeting is very important, and we want to continue to make some avenues available for that correspondence and that ability to communicate with the board and the public available to our residents.
I have a quick question regarding how we're going to manage the correspondence, because typically they're put in a folder and passed around. So are they going to be posted online so we can review them before the meeting?
Yeah, that's a great question. I thought a bit about that as well, and I may have a folder set out for that purpose, a committee folder for that purpose, and maybe arrange it by meeting, and it might be a little bit easier, at least for the time that we're meeting remotely, for you committee, for the committee members to be able to go in and actually see the correspondence.
But at the same token, what we've done in the past is, as information has come in from correspondence, like if it came in through BudCom2 or email, Jeff would get it, and then we'd just send it out to the entire board pretty much in real time. That way everybody's getting it at that time, not right before we have our meeting. So is that something, I'll say, Mr. Chairman, we want to continue doing, is as you're receiving correspondence, distribute them to the entire committee so we're kept informed live, as close to date versus getting them right before the meeting. So for instance, if one comes in next week, we see it next week, not in September.
Yes. I mean, I'm fine doing that. Is there any issues doing that?
It's the way we've done it in the past for the last couple of years. So the question is, do you want to continue doing it the way we've done it in the past 2 years?
Yeah, I can't see any reason why we wouldn't do that.
So I just want to clarify, Jeff, BudCom2 email goes to you and you immediately forward it to the chairperson.
Yep, and you can then distribute it to, that's been our practice, is that the chair would distribute to the committee.
So yeah, the chair will always distribute it to the members, but the chair gets it from Jeff via that email.
Yep.
So BudCom2 email is not necessarily a BudCom does not receive it. I just want to make sure people understand that if they send it to BudCom2, it doesn't technically go to the budget committee.
You mean if they want to say something about Jeff?
Well, it would still be public. I mean, I think if they didn't want that to be public, they'd send it directly to their representative and not the entire. But I guess I don't understand why the chair isn't minimally on that also, because it doesn't seems odd that it's a budget committee email and doesn't go to any member of the budget committee.
It's going to the chair. The chair.
It's going to the chair because I heard it was going to Jeff, but if it's going to Todd, then that's fine.
Jeff, can you clear that up? Or maybe Michael, did emails that went to BudCom2 go to you?
It never came to me first. It goes to Jeff, and then Jeff would typically has forwarded it to me secondhand.
Could we minimally oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the issues, I'm not sure, and I have to check with the Wicked Smart Tech people, but it's a redirect out of our domain to have it be forwarded to, like to you, Todd, directly.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the domain is at the school, district. So then it has to be rerouted. So even when some of the rest of us were chair of different boards, it never came to us directly. It would go and then get redirected to our emails.
I can tell you this, even though it wasn't direct, the process worked.
Yeah, worked for the school board. I think it worked when Brian and I would chair of school boards. Peter, when you would chair, it's the same process.
So that's the same way it works at the school board?
Unless they changed it this year.
No. Okay. No.
And if a citizen wants something directly said to their representative of their town, all our emails are listed, correct?
Right.
They are.
So they can directly send it to us as individuals.
No, I understand. That wasn't my point, though. I said it seemed odd that it's a budget committee email, but it doesn't go to any budget committee member. And I didn't understand why it didn't minimally go to the budget committee.
I mean, I'm fine with that situation, Kathy. But do you want to? I mean, you could try to maybe make a motion. We could have Jeff and the folks in tech look into how we could alter that, right? And make it automatically forward to my email.
Yeah, and there may be a reason for that on the technical side, and I would feel comfortable double checking with Kathy Belcher and Ken, because I believe that there probably is history on that, and I'm more than happy to take it back bring it back to the next meeting if you'd like.
Why don't we parking lot it? Parking lot it.
Yeah.
Why don't we parking lot that, Jeff? If you could find some more information on that, that'd be great.
But Kathy Gorman does make a point that people in our public, critics in our public who want to send those emails think that when they send it to BudCom, it means it goes to the BudCom or
Right.
directly, or it goes to TRSB board directly. And that has never been the case because of the rerouting of the network here.
Right.
Well, it was a case at one point, it did go to everybody, but I do just want to make it clear and want the public to know that if they send it, it does not go to any one budget committee member. It goes to a district employee. That's all. As long as it makes it to us, it's fine. I just want people to understand it doesn't come to us directly.
Right.
Well, they've heard it like 3 times tonight.
So
Yeah.
here's another suggestion. I am at our website, Timberlane Budget Committee, and at the very bottom it says email address budcom2. What if we just replace it with Todd McCormick? If Todd wants to give out his personal email,
Or
right there.
what if we added copy the chair when you send any emails to this email address?
But I think to Kathy and Sue's point, they're thinking it's only going to the budget committee.
That's right.
Right.
So if we replace budcom2 with, I'm just making this up, Todd McCormick at Gmail.
It's close. That's close, Michael.
Okay, but then that's where it goes.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
maybe when you and Jeff investigate this in the parking lot, if that's an option, then it's direct. It satisfies Kathy's interest, which I think is very valid.
Yep. I'm fine with that. I set this email up specifically for budget committee anyways, so that's pretty much all I use it for. So let's circle back to that, Jeff, and see maybe come back with a couple of options of what we could do there.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to administrative report. Mr. Dowd.
Well, I guess there's much to report on, but I will just try and keep it brief.
Really?
As
Is there something going on in our district? What?
Little bit. We're obviously in a remote learning model at the moment, a virtual learning model, and overall, I think that's not been without its hiccups, but it seems to be going okay. And obviously, that will have some budgetary impacts as we approach the end of the year. But if anyone has any questions on that, I'm certainly more than happy. I know you've all been following and probably been a part of and living what's been going on in the district, and and that's it. Obviously, we're meeting a little bit later as a result of that, but I think this is a good format to do so. So,
okay,
not too much else to report.
All right. Let's move on to reports of committees. Sue, what do you have to tell us about the CIP committee? I'm just kidding.
Haven't met yet. Turn it over
Okay.
to Brian.
Check that one off. Mr. Boyle. Hello, sir. And could you please enlighten us with all the wondrous activities of the school board in the last couple of months?
Well, we've had a half dozen of these lovely Zoom meetings. They've been very, actually, I think Kim's now going to hold a record. These meetings have been good. They haven't even gone past 10 past 9, I think is our longest.
What? Oh my
Amazing.
Goodness.
It's just amazing stuff. It's just
You
fun
got your
sometimes.
You got your Thursday nights back every other week. Holy moly.
It's unbelievable. So as Jeff mentioned, which really hasn't really affected the school board much. There's been a lot of unique issues that the district's dealing with as they're educating the kids through a different process here. than anyone's ever done before. And we had to get involved and sign a couple of agreements with the teachers union so they could do what worked best for the teachers and the students. I wish I could tell you there's a lot to report that from a school board standpoint, it really affects the budget committee here. I was looking at the, just for myself, I was looking at the financials as of April 30th, and basically, so I'm glad that Jeff's on the call here, because I'm sure that's going to be coming across here. The school board would like to know, as budget committee, I'm sure, how we're looking with our financials right now. If there's any kind of, as we get Jeff with, there's 6 weeks left in the fiscal year. So if you have any thoughts on what a surplus might look like? I know there's been some surprises. There's also been some surprises in the savings, because I know we've had the councils had in the superintendent's office. They've been negotiating with the transportation with buses, food service. So there's been some savings in some departments, and I'm sure we've had some overages in others. But Jeff, I'm sure you know a lot more about the factuals of those numbers than I do. And I'm just myself, and I'm sure the school board's going to be looking for it probably next week, is to see just how we're looking going into the end of the year here.
So thank you, Brian. I think, Jeff, you were planning on addressing that under new business for budget, review current budget to actual performance, yes?
Yeah, that's right. That's why I didn't respond.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Thank you, Brian. Glad to hear that you aren't there till midnight anymore, and I'm sure that's going to go back again, but maybe it won't. Maybe this will be a precedent-setting thing.
Hey, Todd, just a little fun fact here. I think their last 3 meetings ended at Brian, they were within a minute of each other, 9:09, 9:10, 9:09, something like that. It's been weird.
Wow. Awesome.
That's future Thursday night football right there, Brian.
Good stuff.
All right, let's move on to unfinished business. I don't think we have any unfinished business, do we? Anyone? It's kind of hard to have unfinished business when it's our first meeting. I don't recall any parking lot items from before the election. Anyone no different, or can we move on to the next one? All right, let's go to new business. Review election results and approved budget. Do you have something to share here, Jeff?
I do. Hold on just a second. Let me try and bring it up. I'll be just a moment while I'm doing so. I need it on one screen here. Hold on just a second, pulling it up. There. So there we are. Here are the results from the district election that took place in March, which seems like just so long ago. Obviously, our normal elections operating budget, as you can see, passed by a healthy margin. I think that's a credit to the work of the committee, getting that budget together. Yeah. Capital Reserve Fund passed. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so everyone can see. The TSSU agreement passed by a real healthy margin, and I think that's a real compliment to the negotiating team, the school board, and certainly the support for that the community has for the TSSU and all of our support staff workers and employees. And number 5, authorization for special meeting and cost items. There's really nothing terrific there. Middle school roofs. This is an interesting one. It passed, but the way that the ballot was written, it didn't count because the default budget did not come into play because the operating budget passed. So right. Long and short, it says passed. It did pass, but it's to no effect. Number 7, withdrawal from SAU passed. That was definitely one of the healthier margins on the ballot. I know that both boards have begun the process of, I guess, beginning the separation from SAU 55, and that seems to be progressing. I don't know, maybe Brian could speak to that a little bit more as well.
Well, unfortunately, it's not progressing. It is going to progress, but I think we were hoping it was going to start in May, but looks like it won't happen until June now. So hopefully it's going to be sooner than later. That's all.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a withdrawal plan in place, so a lot of the factors have already been taken into consideration. So the other, the last is the general, I'll say the last, the general acceptance of reports passed as well. That really is of no implication, I think, on the budget committee here. So Spendable Trust Fund for withdrawal by citizens petition, that failed 3427 to 1,110. And the funding for transition preparation for withdrawal from SA 55 citizens petition also failed 3317 to 1184. So I think in looking at the overall ballot, I think that certainly there's a compliment from our voters on the work of the budget committee, of this committee, and the work in getting the school board, getting the TSSU agreement put together and passed. So these are all good things.
Agreed. So I'll just speak to that a little bit. Thank you all who were on the budget committee for last budget season. That are on this call. It was great work. We had a lot of good meetings, and you know, we were successful. So in my 2 years on the budget committee, that's 2 for 2. Knock on wood. Hopefully that keeps up. I'm looking forward to this next budget season. All right. So next on the agenda, Jeff, let us review current budget to actual performance.
Yes. So, and I will, I have actually no problem just telling you this. Obviously, the world has changed significantly in the past several months in ways that I don't think that any of us certainly could have imagined not long ago. And we're all looking, I'm looking for where we're at, and the numbers are still jumping around, and Brian can probably attest to the fact that I had presented to the school board last week. We had some savings with one of our vendors, one of our transportation vendors, that was really probably resulted in a greater than $200,000 overall pickup. And it's been one of those wild rides where we're trying to, be responsible with what it is that we're spending based on what we're using, and rationalizing all of that out. And that's still in flux a little bit more than I'd like it to. I'm really looking forward to it settling down, which it's not quite doing yet. I think we're in good shape overall. I didn't email the financials out. I don't know if you have a copy of those in front of you. I assume that you do. I'm more than happy. Okay. Let me see if I can pull them up here if it would be helpful to see them. Go through any areas that you may have questions on, or any members of the committee may have questions on.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just see if I can pull it up and share it. Pulled up already. I will concede, hands down, the one benefit to this type of meeting format is that it has been such a much better format for being able to share data, share information, share reports.
Yeah.
If there's one upside, I think this is probably it. So you should be able to see that. This is, so for those of you who are new, like Christy, and maybe for everyone else on the committee, I'll typically issue a revenue, and this is the revenue report, and the expenditure report is down just a little further. Oh, there it is. So there are 2 separate reports. I combine them into one. For purposes of looking at these reports, and I'll just go through it quickly. First, we have the account number right here. We do have on our budget committee documents page a breakdown of our account structure. So that's 100, which is our general fund, 1100 for general education, 112 is teaching staff or teachers. And then we go into further detail, which we just take at summary level here on location and department if it's applicable. This is the salaries line here for teachers. The general ledger budget number that you see here, this is the budget number that was voted by the voters at the time that this was adopted by the public, by the voters in the community.
So March 2019.
Correct, and it does not include any budget transfers that have occurred in the meantime, and it does not include any encumbrances that we had rolled forward from the previous time, the previous year. So range to date right here and year to date. Whoops, sorry, the range to date, if you see a from date and a to date right here, that's your range. So this range to date column is saying, yep, we have a range of that spend 1,223,000 for that period of time. Then you get the year to date where we're at, obviously year to date. The balance column is obviously our year to date less subtracted from our GL budget. So the encumbrance column that you see right here, in the current year, things that we're going to spend money on that we've made commitments to are what we call encumbered. And the money typically can't be spent on anything else. It reserves it for the purpose for which it should be spent. In this case, we have commitments on salaries for our teachers for $5,470,287, which leaves a budget balance in this column right here. So the way this report is structured is it is set up by function. So we get a summary at all of our functional levels, which is right here. So this is a report that'll look at the 1100s, the 1200s, so on and so forth. The reports summarize here at the bottom line. So you can see here we're showing what would appear to be a healthy surplus, for example, in this line. We do have our teachers in right now for what would appear to be over $500,000 in favorable variance in that line. However, we have not incorporated or included any of the teacher retirements, which will come out of that line as we move on. So we do have some other lines which do have some favorable variances as well, which is good. Some of the lines like supplies, you'll see supplies virtually in every function that we have. We do still have some spending that as we've had a blip or hiccup, if you will, in the March timeframe into April, some of that money has been encumbered into May. So this month it's been encumbered. So you see right there, we still have money that's been encumbered beyond what, or spent beyond what that 122 is. So overall, we're showing a very healthy variance or healthy pickup in that functional line. So I'm not going to take too much time to go through each and every line. I'm just going to point out really some of the highlights or the lowlights here we have. Nothing real special, here we have our salaries, teacher salaries, our educational assistant salaries, and you can see some of these swings here in situations where we're not able to provide, for example, services in the schools. We may have to send out for services on the outside to be able to provide those services for us. Sometimes that is a result of not being able to staff in the 1200 lines. Sometimes we can't staff in other lines, and we have to pay for those services through this line. We are experiencing, and this is a bit higher, that unfavorable variance is a bit higher than what we are experiencing right now. That's our tuitions private line under the special education function. This has just been just a very volatile line. I think it is in most school districts. For us last year, we came in with some extra money in that line, and it almost seemed like we had it reversed. We lowered the budget for the current year that we're in, and our spend is going higher. I believe in May that number has settled down a bit because we were able to close out and end some of our encumbrances. So when you look at this, when we do the budgeting process, Susan Rasico is in charge, responsible for that line. You'll see that she comes in and looks at the students that we have, the students who are aging out, and always factors in some net gain, net loss, and typically it's going to be a net gain. So just because we have 6 students come into the district, we would plan maybe on 2 leaving the district. So we have a net 4 increase in our outside tuition costs for special education. One of the problems that has happened this year is we've had a lot of factors go against us, and we've not experienced that net effect. We've not had the the students leaving the district when we've had the students coming into the district. So we've been hit in that line much more than I would have liked to have seen. However, when you look at the residential cost here on this line, these two it's really tough to budget between these, because this may be one or two students that you end up not having. So really that money ends up covering some of the shortfall that we may have in our outside tuitions line. So that number is getting a little bit more true as we're getting to the end of the year. Obviously, we're showing a $305,000 deficit in that line. That might seem like a lot. I'm going to go through some of the lines as we go on and show you where some of those pickups are throughout the budget, where we've had opportunity areas. Vocational education, we're a bit over there. We've actually had much greater participation in that program, I think, than we had anticipated. We had a higher trending in that area going into the current, going into the budget year that we were making this budget. And we didn't think it was sustainable, and it actually continued and grew. So we've had some great participation there. You can see our student activities lines. We do have obviously some surplus in that line, and we will have some surplus in that line, mostly because of the fact that we aren't able to have a lot of those student activities at this point. Moving on to athletics, nothing really grand here. We do have some salaries here that are not encumbered. I do believe that we have an opening or two that probably contributed to that to the year. I do think we'll end up with some closure on that as we approach year end, resulting from perhaps some retirements. So overall, nothing dramatic here. The 49,000 here, favorable alternative. The 1600 evening division. I do believe that will be a pretty good variance, pretty steady variance through the end of the year. We're a little bit over in guidance. And as we go into health services, you can see that we're net, we're not great, really not a huge difference there in the budget. We're pretty close. Psychological services, a little over as well. Speech, and bear in mind that as we have had to move to our remote learning model, we've encountered some scenarios where the cost of services have actually gotten a little more expensive for the students. We want to make sure that they're able to have the services that they need. Professional improvement will definitely have a surplus in that line, or a favorable variance in that line. And library services, we're favorable all the way down. Let's see, school board, treasurer, district meeting, that will probably have a little bit of a negative there at the end of the year. Audit, we're pretty close. Legal, we're over, but we're not at the end of the year on that. I don't think we have a lot of room. That'll definitely be over. I just don't know to what degree. Other board services, sorry, a little too quick there. Other board services, little favorable variance there as well. SAU budget, that's the number that we can budget, and we do budget that spot on. So that's pretty consistent. Especially our administrative services, that is one of those areas that if we have any potential savings, it may result in some outside placements in some of those other line items we were looking at. So director of curriculum, I expect that'll be consistent through to the end of the year. Office of the principal, we're not going to be that favorable at the end of the year, but we will be favorable. We've had some positions that we just haven't filled, so that will be consistent. The supervisor in operation of plant. So this was a position that we didn't budget for, and we ended up hiring for. So that's going to result in the school board had approved it. It's worked out great, but obviously we're going to show a deficit in that line because we had not had that position in the budget at the time. And again, we have some offsetting positions that we haven't filled as well. So overall, it's not horrible. These are our custodial services lines right here. Some are up, some are down. Those variances, some of these have actually grown largely because of the fact that we're getting into and we're being able to start our our summer work a little earlier in the schools. And so we're going to be ordering quite a bit more in supplies and the personal protective equipment and gear. Obviously, all that comes with a price. So care of operations and grounds, upkeep of equipment, really nothing spectacular. I think that number will end up going down a bit as well. As we approach the end of the year, it won't be quite that favorable. Let's see if there's anything here. Nothing dramatic. So transportation, We have field trip transportation and regular transportation here. You can see how close we were. We haven't made any adjustments to our encumbrances as of yet, but you can see how close we were anticipating to be really prior to the period of remote learning. We'll definitely have some savings in that line, and actually in some of the other lines as well, because we just haven't had field trip transportation, special education transportation. A lot of those are pay as you go, we just haven't used them. Music transportation, computer services. So some of these lines are over and they appear to be over, but bear in mind that the budget that we're looking at right here is the voted budget. And in some cases we have encumbrances that we've rolled forward. And I have a line or two that I can show you specifically where we had some heavy encumbrances where it's very obvious. And we'll get to that in just a moment. So support services other. So this is a tricky line because our system is a little confusing, and I'll try and make it simple. So this is our budget. Obviously, this is what we spent for the month. This is our year to date. This is our balance. But you can see the encumbrance only encumbers one pay period going forward. It's just a glitch, not a glitch, it's just the way our payroll system works. So you'll see a budget balance here of, you know, what would appear to be 800,000. You'll see a massive line here at the bottom. It would appear to be a big surplus, but at the end of the day, we're not. These lines only encumber one pay period forward, and we still had all of May and all of June plus our summer payments to make there, which were not encumbered. So don't be fooled. Don't be tricked by that line.
So it won't be 3.2, but it does look like it probably is going to be a pretty big line, though, right?
Really big, yeah.
At the end of
yeah.
June.
You know, and bear in mind, some of these are attached directly to salaries, for example. So like we had some favorable variances in our teacher salaries. Well, then we're going to have a favorable variance in, you know, overall in FICA and teacher retirement, et cetera. So we will have some favorable variances there. This one's a little tricky as well, though, because bear in mind that for our teaching staff, we pay, we make their payment. There's essentially their summer payment in June. So in June, we have the two regular pays that we pay, and we also have effectively July and August, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So those two payments are a little backloaded in the process, and you just need to keep it in mind. You know, it's not like we're looking at it. Okay, well, we've gotten through April, so we just have May and June. Well, no, we actually have May and June for salary purposes in one other month in addition to that. Little tricky. So this line right here, this is site improvements. So this would be things that we're doing to the outside, to parking lots and things like that. This is showing 135 negative. It's actually settled down quite a bit as we've got into May. Part of that is just closing out some purchase orders that we've had and making sure that the accounting on the purchase orders, that something should be sites, it's going to sites. But if something it turns out to be a building improvement, that we're including it in building improvement. So this line right here, the building improvement, and just to remind you of how this works, when this budget was passed, this line was put together at 400,000 by the budget committee. The voters on the ballot voted for an additional 531 for the Performing Arts Center. So that 531,000 gets that's included as part of the overall budget into that 931. You'll see right here, oh my gosh, Jeff, we're over 381. How did that happen? I know. But bear in mind that we encumbered because we had some late projects going on last year, some good work of the school board, Susan and Brian. We were able to get quite a bit of work done, but we weren't able to get it done before June 30th. So we actually encumbered about over $400,000 in that line. So the budget that you're looking at is the voted budget of 931. If you include the encumbrance that attached to this line, your budget's in the 1.3 range effectively. So your effective budget to spend is about 1.3. So even though that looks like it's over by 381, it could actually be over by over 450,000 or about 450,000 when we take into consideration the encumbrance. Again, the budget column that you're looking at and the budget that we've talked about over the years, the budget committee and the school board prefer to see our voted budget, not a budget that includes encumbrances. So these do tend to show as over a bit. The computer services line that we just looked at, there were some encumbrances there likely as well. So that 15,000 we're not actually over as much as it seems. So these lines right here, the principal and debt, obviously that's that wouldn't be anything that we'd be looking at going forward. We're true to budget there. That's off next year. The Food Service Fund, Federal Projects, and Performing Arts Center. So this report is a report just from the 100 fund. Anything that we do, 100 fund. So anything that we spend in our food service fund, we have to budget for. Now, typically in the food service fund, if we're budgeting 1.3 million, we receive revenue of 1.3 million as an offset. So typically there's zero impact. It's the same thing with federal projects. If we budget 1.3 and we take in we expend 1.3, we're also receiving federal money for 1.3. But the way that municipal budgeting works, if you recall, if we're going to spend it, we have to budget it. So those lines are here as budget placeholders. We don't report on them in this report. They're reported in different funds, but at the end of the year, the expenses captured in these lines, and whatever it turns out to be, they're normally quite level. Again, if we have 1.4 in expenditure, we'll have 1.4 in revenue, 1.3 in expenditure, we'll have 1.3 in revenue, and 77.5, whatever it is. We might even do 50,000 with the Performing Arts Center in expenditures, and we'd have about the same in revenues coming in. So these numbers here are a little bit deceiving because they're showing as favorable budget variances at this point, but they're really not. They're typically right true to, they're true to their expense and revenue as a complete offset. So we're showing 6.9 here, and principally if you go in, you take out the 1.4, you take out the 1.3, you take out the 77, you take a look at the fact that we have a lot here that's not showing as encumbered, you really come down to a much better number if you're trying to analyze the budget a little bit in that way. It's a little tricky, I'll concede that. But the way that we want to show the budget is exactly what the voters voted, which is this number right here, which includes those offsets for the different funds. So all of that said, and I can almost see if anyone has any questions, I can have you raise your hands or any comments.
Well, Jeff, what do you think? Thank you, but do you have any feeling for like a summary where this is what your projection is right now?
Yeah, I think we're going to be in the 1.5 range, Brian, and I have a little bit still working on special ed transportation, which could be some money, some significant money. We could end up higher than that, really, depending on how we trend down. We've been closing out POs, so our financials for May show a lot of those true ups with our expenditures, and we may end up a little bit better off than that. But Brian, I think it's important to remember, I believe your number, the school board retained, I believe, I think it was 400,000 last year, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound right, Sue?
Yep.
Oh, man, I don't dare guess anymore because we've got multiple fiscal years, and I have another district that I deal with as well. So at the end of the year, that 400,000 essentially contributes to surplus, but it's not spendable. You can't spend the money. Typically, the school board will simply renew that for the next year as well. So when we see a big surplus, a big number come in for surplus, not all of it's spendable. So we'll at least have that 400,000 coming in that just won't be spendable as well. So if I say 1.5 and it comes in at 2 million, got to bear in mind it's only the 1.5 that would be spendable.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have some grants that are a little bit tricky, some federal grants that I was hoping to get some satisfaction from the Department of Ed this week on. The problem with the grant is that it's 150,000, but there are some spending requirements associated with it that we've got to be careful in order to qualify for the money. I don't want to trip over any of those obstacles they put in place to make sure that we can gain all of that revenue. And then the question is it going to be spent in this fiscal year or next fiscal year? So, that's another I think it's about 123,000 we'd be looking at net to the district. And we have a couple other grants as well that are going to be coming in as some offset to some of the costs associated with the remote virtual learning and with the remote virtual delivery as we're doing right now of district resources.
Jeff, Was there any money earmarked for public schools in any of the stimulus bills?
We received some funding through the CARES Act.
Mhm.
So that was an act passed, I mean, almost immediately after we shut down. But ironically, as long ago as that seems, we still have not received firm guidance on how it can be spent, which is absolutely bizarre.
Can you share how much that was?
123,000, I believe, is our allocation.
Have we received it?
No.
We haven't received it yet, so.
No, and beyond, to be frank with you, so the Department of Ed is actually dubious to make it available because they're still waiting on guidance. The problem is that the funds are allocated, as best I can explain it, the funds are allocated to districts on something that resembles a Title I allocation formula.
Okay.
The funds are, so that's how much money we end up with. The spending of it is under perhaps a Title II, Title IV. The DOE, the New Hampshire DOE, is not 100% sure. So they're waiting for guidance from the feds on this. And to be quite frank with you, as this will come as a surprise to Sue, I'm sure, it doesn't seem like it was well thought out. And some of the problems that I'm running into are, for example, if we wanted to pay some, let's say, some staff, well, we need to track that staff's time. Well, if it takes you 2 months to tell us how to spend the money, I can't track staff's time.
Right.
So it's little things like that that are just a little bit unsettling. And that's why the Department of Ed has been shy to release the funding to any districts in the state, because they don't want to have us set up activities and spend the money and seek reimbursement when the federal government comes in and tells us that that's not how they thought that we were going to spend it. So it'll come through. It'll come through eventually.
So
Right
that's
now,
not something you've budgeted in the revenue printout here yet, then?
No, and actually the revenue that we have at the top, revenue is an interesting thing. I don't adjust this, Todd, as it goes along. Basically, the way that revenue works is, the budget committee will come up with a revenue budget that ties to the operating budget that you're proposing. But ultimately, the revenue budget is not set until the summer, really, when we're a little bit closer to knowing what those actual receipts are going to be. But once it's set, it doesn't change.
Okay.
So I don't really have a way to go in and
add a line for like unanticipated
revenue. Not at this point. I would keep this to match what we already have on file with the Department of Revenue Administration. I would look separately, and remember with the grants fund, I mentioned that with the grants here, the federal projects line, we have 1.3 in expense. Well, that's our 220 fund. So what I may end up doing is actually, we may not realize a revenue surplus here in the general fund. What I may end up doing is taking some of the expenses that we have that we're going to seek reimbursement for from the federal government and just move it to our 220 fund. So we would have the effect of decreasing our expense budget on our operating budget.
Okay.
And then it would be offset by revenue in our 220 fund. If you recall, revenue and expenses would be completely offset.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it would show up. But I actually end up pulling some expenses out. My removing expenses would contribute to a surplus at the end of the year. So, but I will be hammering out some of those details. It's my intent to have a number as close as we can get it for surplus for the school board's upcoming meeting, which I believe is next week. And at that point, hopefully some of these factors have settled down. I'm pretty pleased with the work that we've been able to do with some of our vendors to be able to bring some of our costs down. So I do anticipate, though, our food service fund will require a contribution of probably about $150,000 from our general fund. So it offsets in a way. But anyway.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions for Jeff? All right. Thank you very much, Jeff. And Jeff, you're up again for the budget process overview.
Oh, there we are. Okay. So we, you as a committee, and I know most of you are familiar with it, and I know Sue's familiar with it because you were on the school board last year. As we get into the summer, we have a much better idea what our actuals are for the year. Just bear in mind that the budget process is a little tough because we're budgeting in September, really, for a year that we just started. And the only financials that we have, because we don't really have good financials, good run rates from July and August. The only run rates that we have are for the year that we'll be closing in June. So when we start in September, we'd be looking in a way at the June year-end numbers to see how we performed and where our needs are as part of the overall budget analysis. But we're preparing that budget for the subsequent year. So we're really, 8-9 months out on the budget. I know a lot of the towns do it a little bit differently. They budget a lot closer to when they're able to, end their year. We budget far in advance. So we'll begin that process in September. And typically it's been us getting together, myself, the superintendent, getting together with department heads, principals, understanding needs, staffing, what the resources are that they require at their schools, and going through that process, having them work with their building level teaching staff to develop those budgets. And then as they enter their budgets into our system, we roll them up, make adjustments, and move forward. As we go along as a committee, typically we'll take those functions that are most certain and try and bring them forward as early as possible to go through some of the, some of their budgetary needs, their wants, and to put some perspective on where the district is in terms of a budgeting perspective overall. So guidance from the committee is always helpful if there's target number, an increase, decrease, or whatever need it is that you may be able to assist with. That's always very welcome. So the school board's been a little bit more active in that process lately. So Brett, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Not particularly, no.
Brian just goes to budget meetings in the fall. The school board budget.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Anyone have any questions for Jeff?
In target communities of color. Join 9/11 and Banjo.
Oh, what was that? Okay. Thank you very much, Jeff. Let's move on to the second page of the, well, this is going to refer to the second page of the agenda, but we're going to review and discuss budget committee meeting schedule. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but this is pretty much a mirror of what we did or attempted to do in the last budget season. I mean, obviously, things are a little up in the air, when it comes to a lot of what we do in the fall, namely meeting in person, also what even is going to happen with the school district in the fall. I mean, there's a lot of questions, a lot of question marks, and so I think I'd like to just schedule and assume that we're going to be in person and doing these meetings. We also like to try to start figuring out kind of generally when we want to have administrators come in and present to us. That also is going to present some potential difficulties as well. But I would like to at least try to target that roughly when we'd like to start thinking about having administrators come in. We didn't do a facilities tour last year. Again, right? Who knows how that's going to happen? We do have someone now to do a facilities tour for us, Jeff, correct?
We do. Yes, we do.
Yeah. Yeah. So if and when we can schedule that, I highly recommend it for sure for you, Christy. It's a great opportunity to go around to the schools with the principal of that building and the facility director and get a look and feel of what's going on in every building. I'll go every year if possible. And of course, anyone's welcome, public's welcome. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it as far as a date on that. But if everyone's reviewed these dates, I'll open it up for commentary. I thought it worked well last budget season. I think a couple of these meetings we didn't end up doing. Did we? Yeah, I don't think, did we meet after Christmas?
No.
No, I don't think we did. And I'm definitely not going to recommend. I mean, we can keep the December 24th there for now, but I don't think anyone's going to want to do that. So hopefully we can get a lot of work done, whether it be remote or in person, by then, and not have any need for that meeting. And maybe we'll luck out and not have any need for the December 10th meeting. Well, it all depends on information, what's been presented, and and what we're able to accomplish in the September, October, November timeframe.
You might want to fix the, errors. I don't think we're going to meet Thursday, December 10th in 2019 unless we're going
Sharp eyes, sir, sharp eyes.
Christmas Eve in 2019.
Of course.
That's
There'd be one of those in there.
That's the teacher in me.
Go back in time.
10th and the 12th, yeah. Right, so those are 2020. So I'm fine leaving this the way it is. What I would like to do, Jeff, is I don't think you can do it on today's meeting, but between now and, the end of August, I'd like to get a better feel for when, I think we'll know a lot more then, and for when we could expect to start seeing some administrators come and do some presentations of their budgets for us. Does that sound fair?
That sounds fine. Yeah, that sounds fine. The meeting dates that are on that schedule are per bylaws. So
yep.
It's nice to have a model set up. And if you wanted any changes, now would be the time to do it. But if it sounds like it's okay, I'll just accept it by general consent, and that'll be our schedule.
Works for me.
Does anyone have any comments on the meetings as they're scheduled in this agenda?
I do.
Okay.
I was just wondering, is there a time frame between the December 24th meeting and the public hearing that we could just pencil in just in case we need one additional meeting if things get all delayed starting up in the fall? Just to have kind of in there as a marker.
I think the tough thing is that we're on school break, I think, really, and I don't have the calendar right in front of me. But
I know. Wait, let me look at my calendar.
I think you're pretty much out.
On break until they go back on the 4th of January is my assumption. Yeah.
Would the 7th be the meeting for the school board? Is that on there? Would we be on that meeting, their meeting night, do you think?
Typically that would be their meeting night.
First Thursday
Okay.
of the month, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
It's a tricky year, right? Look, I was just thinking, well, what if we move the 24th, which will clearly be, will clearly, unless there's an emergency, we'll want to be canceling. But then a week later is New Year's Eve.
Right.
I guess my suggestion would be look, this is just a general placeholder. And if we start getting into a crunch, we'll find a date. It may not be a Thursday.
Exactly.
It could be, the Tuesday of the following week, but we'll figure it out as we get there.
Okay.
That's right. And there is a Tuesday already on there. That's what we did last year too, right?
Right. I think
met
traditionally we always move that to the Tuesday.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meetings. I mean, I don't think it does us any good to throw in an extra meeting earlier in September. Traditionally, we've never done that, and I'm not advocating for that. I see your point, Julie. It would be helpful to have one out there. I just don't know when we would do it. Right. But like Michael said, could, if we could throw out like the potential, especially. Well, I don't think we'll be doing remote by then. I'm not going to jinx us, but especially somewhere in that like 5th of January, 12th of January timeframe, sometime before the public hearing. If we absolutely had to, I think we can make it work.
I agree.
Yeah, hopefully we won't have to get there. But so let's if we can get a consensus and everyone's fine with this, we'll go off of this as our template, and then adjust as necessary, like we're all going to have to do here until things get better.
Yep.
So, all right. Does anyone have any other comments on the tentative agenda?
So that means we'll just edit these simple date changes and then post this on our website?
Auto wrap, yep, and I'll schedule the times, and if it looks like you think you may need a different time or date into December or January, obviously the sooner the better. And I think you'd know probably by mid-November if that were going to be the case. We'll just book something then.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on to, I guess I kind of jumped around a little bit here. Review, discuss budget committee meeting schedule. We also have future agenda dates, but let's go to other business. Anyone with any other business?
So I just looked at our district website. So last year we sent around a sheet that had all of our contact information in there. Remember that?
Yes.
Had our name, address, phone. So we may want to just send it out again, just to make sure everybody's got everybody's contact, which includes our newest 2 members.
Yeah, I was going to focus on our 2 new members for that. But the question is, if you take a look at the website, does anyone else have any changes to what's out there currently?
I do. So,
okay.
I mean,
I'll circulate it then, Michael.
Circulate it, and then I'll put my request in. Right now, my contact on the school website is missing some information, so I'll just send it to you, Todd and Jeff, and you can add it to the website.
Yeah, and same for anyone. If you have any changes at all, you know, feel free to email myself and Jeff, and we can get that fixed fairly quickly. I'm just checking mine right now. Mine is correct. Oh, my phone number's on there. No, maybe mine's not correct. I think I only wanted my email address on there. So
everyone's gonna go get your phone number now before you change it.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay. So any other business? Anyone?
Is it too soon? Let me back up. So last year when we had the schedule of the presenters, is it worth it to start working on that draft about, you know, who'd come in at what meeting? I don't need to do it now at this meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe
the September 10th meeting would be a meeting that we would normally, you know, we're really just beginning the budget development process, and that we really wouldn't have finalized it. That would be a great opportunity to take a look at that. Maybe I could send a proposed schedule out. Did you want it earlier, Michael? What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts is, look, we only have 7 meetings. We're doing about $10 million per meeting. So it would be nice if when we walked in on our first meeting, we had a draft copy of what our schedule of presenters might look like, meaning, you know, what departments on what dates. Just hand it to us. So that's what I'm saying, maybe between Todd and Jeff, come up with a draft. And
well, that's what I meant, Michael, about giving Michael until like maybe late August or early September to come up with some availability and some ideas on who might be available. Because I think at this point in time, normally it would almost be impossible anyway at this point in time, but now with all this uncertainty, I think we definitely need to give them a couple of months to really try to figure out who's going to be where and how it would work, right? Like if we're still remote, it might be even easier. You know, like kind of like Brian's talking about with the school board meetings, they're going quicker, and you know, Jeff's talking about, I mean, there are some positives to doing this format, and one of them would be availability, right? To have people present to us, be able to share what they're showing us.
Yep.
I'm not rooting for that to happen. I'm just saying, you know, I don't know where we're going to be, but I think if we give Jeff until, you know, a month and a half into the fiscal year to, you know, get your teeth into it, Jeff, and like Michael said, come up with some sort of a rough draft of how we could roll it out, you know, starting as early as either the second meeting in September, or I would think no later than October 8th. We would want to start at least having some of our first presentations, and we did that last year. And then in the first meeting we did, that we knocked out the easier stuff for us, right? The school board budget,
That's
the budget committee budget, the SAU budget, and so we could definitely go for low hanging fruit for the earlier meetings, but let's target sometime in August to come up with a general plan, and then we'll roll with the punches as need be.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I think that kind of covers future agenda and dates. Anyone have any other thoughts they'd like to bring to the table? All right. Well, then I'm going to ask someone to make a motion to adjourn. And then I guess we'll wrap this up and see all of your wonderful faces in person in September.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, the meeting is officially adjourned at 8:44 p.m.